Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Amanda Ziade with WashingtonExec, and today I'm joined by a member of government and industry to discuss the impact of emerging technologies like generative AI are having on federal agencies and the change management needed to keep pace. So, our speakers today are Dave Hinchman, Director of IT and Cybersecurity for the Government Accountability Office, and Jamie Baker, Director of Federal Health, Science, and Policy for Amazon Web Services. Thank you both for being here today.
Right. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So I'd like to start by asking if each of you can give us a brief overview of what you oversee and what your top priorities are at the moment. Dave, we'll start with you.
Sure. Thanks. And thanks for having me here today. I think this is a great conversation. It's something that resonates with both industry and government alike. And I think there are a lot of good different perspectives to offer for folks who are about to embark on this journey to think about. As Amanda mentioned, I'm a director of IT and cybersecurity at the U.S. Government Accountability Office. We are an independent legislative branch agency. We work for Congress and help them better understand issues that they're conducting oversight on. We go out, we conduct reviews, we write reports, we make recommendations. My particular portfolio includes the technology workforce, some business systems modernization work, including the IRS. But more importantly, what brings me here today is critical infrastructure cybersecurity, which increasingly involves cloud security as well as AI, as folks move into this new realm of technology and all the great things that these technological innovations are going to bring to the government technology landscape.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave and Jamie.
Yep. So thanks again for including me. So my name is Jamie Baker. So I manage our federal account teams responsible for supporting those agencies in the federal landscape around healthcare, science, and policy. And so we're ultimately chartered with helping our federal agencies embrace the cloud, embrace platforms to take advantage of these next generation technologies so they truly can kind of focus on their mission and bring those new best of breed technologies to bear in support of their ultimate mission, which is supporting kind of the general population and the citizens.
All right. Thank you both so much. All right. So, Dave, I understand that the GAO has been doing work looking at federal deployments of cloud and AI. What has that looked like recently as tools like generative AI take the forefront?
This is a great question because it's changed dramatically, and I feel like it changes every week that we're out there. These are technologies that are evolving at the speed of light. And I think that's really interesting to talk to federal agencies where we're doing work to understand how they're looking at these issues and trying to figure out how they're going to grow into this technology. Increasingly AI is such a huge consumer of resources that people are turning to cloud because they recognize that if we want to use AI, we're going to have to do this by cloud. It's going to be hard for us to host this locally, other than smaller tools that maybe can deploy locally. And so it's really changing the way people in the government think about technology and what they're doing. It's creating, I think, a little more need for longer foresight about where they're going with technology. And then you have to think about, okay, how do we put the infrastructure in place to do this? Luckily, cloud offers these solutions. So I think agencies are really looking at cloud as this incredible resource that's going to allow them to scale and grow over the coming years as the government figures out what AI really means for each individual agency, what it means for the government writ large, and how it's going to impact the delivery of citizen services.
Well, Jamie, I understand that AI is pretty much already embedded in most of the commercial tools that we use. So how can generative AI revolutionize work?
Yeah, it's interesting. The phrase artificial intelligence or AI, I've always thought from a different lens. Really, it's from my perspective, it's really IA, and I think what we're seeing is the AI flipping to what I consider is like an intelligent assistant. I think that partially it's really starting to make productivity better. It's allowing workers to focus on in a natural language way, getting out of the business of doing deep analysis of spreadsheets and really being able to query things that were kind of cumbersome in the past more through a natural conversation. So that's one. I think it's really becoming more of an assistant for the general workforce. And I would say the other area is really around just being much more efficient, right? The federal government really wants, and I think that was part of the move to the cloud, was to get out of the business of doing what we call the undifferentiated heavy lifting of IT, which was racking and stacking servers, which was, swapping hard drives and storage arrays, and really just focusing on the data so you have more time to focus on mission, really why the agency exists, which is like really driving mission outcomes. And so I think that these tools are only enabling that workforce to be more productive and really focus more of their time on driving the mission forward.
Great, wonderful. And from a government perspective, Dave, how are agencies approaching the challenges of change management when adopting cloud and AI technologies to ensure that the work is more than just cloud for cloud's sake or AI
Yeah.
for AI's sake?
Well, I think Jamie hit on it. People are recognizing that you can use AI or IA as an incredibly powerful tool to replace the work of slogging through a spreadsheet or something like that. Well, those are all changes in how you do your job and how you change your business processes. And so I think it really begins on day one before you've engaged with a vendor when you decide, okay, let's think about how we can use AI in our workplace to make us more efficient, to increase our productivity, and really taking some time to understand what that change is going to mean. I don't think you can rush headlong into AI or cloud for that matter without running a pretty significant risk of finding yourself in a place where we don't know why we're doing this. We don't know why we're spending this money. It's not getting the results we want. You really need to take some time to understand the technology, understand how it's going to change what you're doing, and start to communicate and socialize that with your workforce. Workforce is one of my issue areas. This is something we hear that the workers want to understand what this change is going to mean. And I think that's an important part of that change management because you have to socialize the change, help folks understand why this change is coming so that when you first partner with a vendor, you really understand what it is you want and that you can make sure that that vendor is going to be able to provide you what it is you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, partnering with vendors, we know that adopting these technologies in government are oftentimes a cross-sector approach, taken. So Jamie, from your perspective, and I understand you've been involved in helping agencies migrate and modernize to the cloud. So what challenges do you see agencies face as they try to move from, chatbots to more sophisticated AI?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, it's a data problem, right? And I think as we move further away from the general chatbots, as you referenced, into really more agentic workflows, making sure you've got a very good plan around your data, not only finding out where all your data exists and what the most important data is for your mission, but it's also getting it into a format that makes it much more usable by these agents. So I think there has to be as Dave mentioned, a purposeful kind of working backwards process around data to make sure that you're getting a good foundation for building some of these workflows. I think also Dave hit on change management. There truly needs to be kind of an upskilling of the workforce to get better understanding of how these agents can be trusted, how Gen AI can, the outputs can be trusted. And I think that's going to take time. It's not, everybody's always leery of new technology, especially when it's so disruptive to the way things have historically been done. And so I think it's kind of a bit of a feedback loop into trying new things, seeing if the results match what's expected, and then that trust will kind of create a flywheel that will grow over time. Lastly, I would say it's really around governance and compliance. You have to have guardrails in place because I think there are situations where everybody is very concerned about are these large language models safe? Is it okay to put queries around specific federal data into these models? Where is it going? And so I think really understanding the guardrails that this technology is being implemented in will kind of further enforce that trust and will enable it to be kind of more broadly accepted.
Yeah, Dave, are these kind of the challenges you're seeing as well that Jamie was describing?
Yeah, and just to build on the change management idea, because I think Jamie brought up a good point. Change is hard. Most of us don't like change, certainly in the federal government, not a huge advocate for that. But, introducing a revolutionary technology like that really does bring change. We will need to think about how we do work differently, how we manage our data, what are the tasks we do, how do we need to control that data, and, the guardrails that Jamie talked about. And so, bringing in an executive champion, and I kind of allude to that, I think is hugely important. It's someone who really can communicate the value proposition across the agency so that folks understand this is why we're doing this. Yes, it's maybe some short-term pain as we learn a new way of doing things, but here's the upside and the benefits that we get in the long run. And so this is why it's important to, keep your eyes on this prize and to, figure out how we're all going to do this together. And I think that, and that feeds into the execution as well. The change is a process and it's a journey. And so there are going to be missteps along the way, but having clear, concise organizational leadership, I think, can make a big difference in helping folks understand, okay, this didn't work quite the way we're going to, but this is how we're going to pivot. And this is how we're going to keep on that journey, on that path to where we're heading.
So, Jamie, how is AWS ensuring that these tools are improving functionality for customers and citizens, for users, and subsequently, how do you work with federal partners to kind of make sure that they're ready for these changes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that the way that AWS approaches a lot of the things that we build is really around providing choice. So not only do we have our own large language models, we also have our own custom GPUs that we're developing, as well as kind of platforms for giving access. It's really about choice, right? We don't want to provide a one size fits all to every customer. We want to be able to provide a lot of choice because we know there are going to be new models. They seem to be coming out every month that seem to do better or worse than against benchmarks. So we really want to position ourselves to provide that breadth of different options for customers to be able to leverage, and a lot of that comes from just how we've organized our bringing these new models as they come into the market on and making them available kind of with a click of a button. And so I would also say that one of the other things that kind of works really closely is, especially to your question about kind of working with the federal partner landscape, we have pretty extensive programs around not only upskilling for end user customers, but also with the systems integrators and consulting partners that we typically go to market through. This is not only a brand new thing for the federal workforce, it's also new technology for a lot of the consulting partners and the integrators and the engineers who are deploying these models. So not all of them come knowing, the whole AWS breadth of services. So there's a lot of upskilling and training that we have to do with that ecosystem as well. But ultimately, it's, I think it's creating that kind of flywheel, and a lot of it is just making sure that there's trust between not only us as a vendor, but also with the integration community as well as the end customers, that there's kind of a partnership built in, and that they can be able to actually deploy these models and really get the value out that's being promised.
So in terms of actually putting these tools and capabilities to use, Dave, do you have any use cases that you can share on just how impactful AI can be for, the work that federal agencies are doing?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, we all hear the news about different agencies rolling out chatbots, and I would say that's probably the most prevalent citizen forward deployment that we hear about. But what's great is GitHub hosts a repository of declared federal government AI use cases that gets submitted every year. The December list I checked this morning was about 2,100 use cases, and they range from chatbots to law enforcement analysis. And so I think that, if you look at sort of what these systems names are, it's pretty obvious that this holds an incredible potential for rapid, massive amounts of data analysis that, to Jamie's point earlier, maybe you used to have to go through a spreadsheet, trying to understand what the data is, what's the message, what do I need, what do I care about? And now here's this amazing technology that's going to allow us to do that in the blink of an eye. And so I think, you hear about a lot of these big things, and the federal government is sort of aside beginning this AI journey. We're baby steps. There's a long way to go before we're sort of really into AI. And so these initial use cases as agencies, the ones who are a little more leading edge, start to feel their way into more significant opportunities to use this technology. I think we're going to see things where you're able to call into a number and, maybe it's an agency where your records were scattered all over multiple different systems, pull all of that together instantaneously so that you're improving customer service, you're enabling citizens to get information about them much quicker than they need. And I think there's just going to be incredible potential in a couple of years from now. I think the way government does business and interacts with its citizens is going to look completely different.
And Dave, I might chime in and just give another anecdote of one of the things that you're talking about, kind of that experience of potentially like contact center, kind of increasing the technology behind contact centers. We're also seeing these tools being able to do real-time sentiment analysis. How frustrated is the person on the other end of the phone getting right now, so that we might be able to divert to a different type of customer care representative. So it's really allowing in real time the ability to kind of adjust that experience, if it's going well or not going well, to trying to kind of course correct in real time. So that's another value add.
Yeah, it's a unique technology that way that just keeps evolving and learns from itself to keep getting better and better, which is, a unique experience, I'm sure, from the federal side as well. And I know that we could probably have an entire conversation about this, but I do want to quickly touch on cybersecurity. Dave, I understand that, advanced tools like AI are just as much a risk to networks as they are a tool for preventing attacks. So what are agencies doing to balance using these tools to fight the bad guys while the bad guys are also using them to infiltrate, our networks?
As I like to say, AI both giveth and punish you, because while you have AI, which is enabling you to do these rapid analysis, the bad guys are using AI as well. And they're going to make your life more difficult. It allows them to launch attacks at scale against your infrastructure. In the scale they weren't able to do it before. But what AI does enable you to do in a security operations center, sit down and analyze all these data transactions happening across your network in the blink of an eye, and to flag suspicious things for the human in the loop, however your system's set up, however your processes are set up. And so that's really, I think, the big benefit. It's enabling you to secure your network better, and speed as well. All these, we've been talking, Jamie and I've been talking about all these manual processes that are happening automatically now. And so I think security folks really look at the cyber side of AI as something that's going to be a tremendous help for them moving forward. As the systems get smarter, more robust, as they sort of figure out how we're going to fit this into the cyber side of things, I think there is going to be a tremendous upside, which is important because the threat's only going to grow. Cyber is only going to grow in importance and need for everyone. All of our daily lives are impacted by this to some degree. And so AI, I think, is going to make a really powerful difference in how we fight this threat moving forward.
Right, makes sense. And we've touched on the change management aspect of adopting these tools. But Jamie, how does having a cloud infrastructure already in place make AI deployment easier in terms of governance and compliance, and especially as AI models continue to evolve, as we mentioned?
Yeah. So governance and compliance, I think, is kind of like the table stakes. But what I would really highlight is really around speed and agility and kind of scalability. Once an agency has gone through the process of really what I like to call is getting the plumbing in place to allow a cloud to be kind of plugged into an agency's network backbone. It's getting that authorization to operate for that environment really allows for a lot of experimentation. As we were talking about earlier, these models are coming out at a pace that we've really never experienced with other technologies to date. What it really allows for is experimentation. So you can try a chatbot running, a 3.5 version of Anthropic Claude. Oh, wow, 4.0 came out a week ago. Hit pause. Let's spin up that infrastructure, within a couple of hours. And now we can test and see how are the results on the new model versus the old for our type of workload. Oh, we didn't get much of an improvement. Maybe we'll go back to the old one because it's a little bit cheaper. And so, I think that experimentation really helps. And by already having that cloud infrastructure in place, will continue to kind of be the right place for you to be able to, take advantage of these technologies.
Yeah, it's kind of like already having those building blocks in place to kind of just add on to. Wonderful. Well, before we close, we love to ask, this question since we have both perspectives with us today. Can you both share a bit about how government and industry can continue to work together to support federal adoption of these next gen tools? Dave.
I'll say, and I would direct this to both government and industry, be a good partner. Take the time to find the right partner. I think that's really important so you don't find yourself down the road stuck in a place where you're not happy spending a lot of money. I think that the due diligence that you put in advance of thinking about what it is you want, what you want these tools to do for you, and then making sure that the partner that you're talking to is actually going to be able to deliver on your expectations is hugely important, and vice versa. Industry make sure that you're going to be able to deliver to your clients' expectations so that we can move forward and continue to leverage these incredible resources and make government work better.
And Jamie.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I would maybe take it from the lens of, industry oftentimes is bringing a lot of these new innovations to bear, but it can be complex, right? And so, to your comment, Dave, about really having a partnership here, I think the federal government is going to bring mission expertise, and industry will bring expertise around technologies. And so, I don't think deploying these technologies in a vacuum is not super useful unless it's really having an impact on the mission and why the federal government is taking advantage of them and deploying them. And so I think the word partnership is kind of spot on, that there's kind of a trust established, and everyone knows kind of what they bring to the partnership. But ultimately, if it works well, then the citizens' experience will improve. The government's getting more efficient, and industry is able to get these new technologies into the hands of the citizens going forward.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for sharing your perspective on this topic with us today. I know that we could talk about it for much longer, and I'm sure we'll just continue to have these conversations as AI evolves and government adoption becomes a bit more sophisticated. So appreciate you being here.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.